You're listening to Mountain Heartbeat with Joe and Rosa Hopkins, proclaiming the gospel through word and through song.
Welcome to Mountain Heartbeat. I'm Joe Hopkins. This week, Rosa interviews Jen Christie. Several years ago, she was assaulted and raped, and as a result became pregnant. Her and her husband decided to keep the child, and their story has gone viral around the world.
So thank you for joining us this Saturday morning on Mountain Heartbeat. Today, as our guest, we will have Jennifer Christie. She made headlines several years ago when she suffered a brutal attack. She was sexually assaulted, raped, and then became pregnant as a result of the rape. And her husband and her, Jeff, they decided to choose life. And now they've been blessed with a beautiful, gorgeous little boy that I've had the privilege personally to meet. And we wanted to share her story with us. So I'm not going to tell all of her story. She's here to do that herself. And so I want to welcome you to the show, Jennifer. Thank you so much for being with us here on Mountain Heartbeat today.
Thank you, Rosa. So nice to be here.
Absolutely. And so just start at the beginning. What was your life like before you and Jeff got married out of when you guys were young? And just tell us about what life was like before all of these incidents happened.
Well, Jeff and I have known each other for a long, long time. We met as young teenagers in youth group, and so we've had quite a foundation. We were married at the time for almost 20 years, and we had 4 children. In 2 decades of marriage, you go through quite a lot. So I think Jeff had mentioned in his interview that we had weathered quite a few storms. So I think he used the word normal. I said,
normal.
Did you have a normal married life? And I don't know if such a thing exists really, but we had certainly cultivated a very strong marriage, and a marriage where we learn to cling to God and to each other when things were rough. But I think we had reached a point where we were solid and comfortable, and we had completed our family. We had 4 great kids, and I was going to say three great kids and one that was okay, but not everyone appreciates that kind of joke. So we had 4 great kids, and everyone was in school. Everyone was school age. The youngest was 8, and our oldest was a senior, getting ready to be a senior in high school, and or finishing her junior year. I guess it was the beginning of the new year. So there was a light at the end of the childless emptiness kind of tunnel, and we were good with that. We felt like we were in a good place, and sort of moving past some rough patches in our life, and just looking forward to whatever the future held, I guess.
And then all of that changed one day in 2014. Can you go a little bit into what happened?
Sure. It was January 2014, and I took a lot of out-of-town work. Didn't usually keep me overnight, but I did a lot of driving. I do, not right now with the baby, but I'm a freelancer, so I do a lot of driving. And this one particular assignment that I'd had, it was a few weeks long, and it began very, very early in the morning, and it was, like I said, a few weeks long. And the second week, Jeff was worried about me driving back and forth, and he said, "Why don't you just stay up there the second week, and we'll get you a hotel room, stay up there." He was worried about me falling asleep on the road, and so we thought that would be the best thing. And the last day of the assignment, it was mid-morning, early afternoon, something like that. I don't remember exactly. It must have been mid-morning because I was finishing up the job, and I came back to the hotel, and it was snowy, which was not very typical for North Carolina, but it was snowy and very, very cold, and we think I was followed from the parking lot of the hotel. I don't know that for sure, but I think it's probably likely. I was not really paying attention. I had my hood up and my scarf around my face, and I had my arms full of my laptop bag and my purse, and I think I'd had a bag of snacks or something. I just remember my arms being full, and I opened the door I got up to my room. I'm mentioning this because I think it's important for women to, when they're traveling alone, to have a room on the inside of a hotel, and Jeff always made sure to book this for me, and for some reason, this is the only time in my traveling solo life that I did not have a room on the inside of a hotel. So I'm just putting that out there. It was on the outside, the door that opened to the outside. And I got the door open and I dumped all my stuff and I turned around to shut the door and there was a man standing in the doorway. And I remember, just because this question has been asked so many times, about my first reaction, and my first feeling wasn't fear. It was just kind of just surprise. I was startled that someone was right there in my face. And anyway, sorry. He punched me in the head and dragged me in the room and raped me. And I was found I'm sorry, I'm saying so many times. I was found in the hotel stairwell by a housekeeper. I think I was wearing a bra that was broken, and I was badly injured. I suffered a pretty bad head injury. I still have seizures today, and I've had several surgeries to repair some internal injuries. And I think our biggest concern at the time was disease, things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And in the early days, especially, I had a couple fractured ribs and things like that. We told our other children that I was in a car accident. We didn't want to scare them. I think Jeff and I were really in shock. We didn't really know how to process this, what to say. We were just we didn't tell our parents right away. We didn't really tell anybody. We didn't know how to handle anything. We were just trying to kind of get through, just try to work through it separately and then together, what it meant for us as a couple, what it meant for me and again, the biggest thing on our mind was disease. And they do give you, a rapid HIV test in the hospital, and they do give you a lot of medicines right then, but it's still something that you have to test for regularly. And so that was the event that happened in January of 2014.
And then afterwards, you were on a cruise. And what did you find out? What happened there?
I was scheduled to work on a cruise, and I probably should have backed out of the assignment, but it had been scheduled for months, and I just felt like it would have been irresponsible to pull out so quickly, or when it was so last minute. It was maybe 5 or 6 weeks after the assault, and Jeff and I decided that a change of scenery might do me some good. I was not handling things well. I was in a very dark place. I've read a lot of commentary on my story where people talk about how quickly I seemed to recover and how jaunty I was, and I just went on this cruise, and that was not the case. I was not handling things well. I was spiraling downward. I was having panic attacks, and I was I scared to leave the house, and we determined together that maybe it'd be good to be somewhere different. So I went on this cruise, and I think it was 10 or 12 days. It was the longest I'd ever had. And again, we talked about a lot of critiques, a lot of bashing that I've taken. And another one was, well, why is she working such long jobs away from her family? And not that it would have mattered what I said, but it was probably I think it was the 5th cruise I've done in a 20-year career. But anyway, it was a 10 or 12 day cruise, and it was the longest I've ever been away. And day 2, I get sick, and really, really sick. And they assume dysentery. And if you have dysentery on a cruise ship, they don't let you out with the masses. You are taken away right away and quarantined. And so that's what they did. And after a day or 2, they'd given me strong antibiotics, and I wasn't getting better. And the doctor was like, well, we're going to put you on something, heavier. We're going to give you some IV stuff. And is there a chance that you might be pregnant? And I kind of laughed it off, and I was like, oh no. And then I stopped, and I was like, I guess maybe, because my knee jerk was, well, no, my husband's, had a vasectomy. There's no possible way. And then it just hit me. And I thought, I knew. Right then I knew and I said, you know what? I was sexually assaulted the second week in January. I said, you better test me. And she did. This poor doctor was not prepared for me at all. And it was positive. And then they had concerns because I was in a lot of pain about, ectopic pregnancy and stuff. And we had to pull off and take me to pull off. Like it's like a car. It's not quite that easy, but we docked in Colombia, and they took me to a little hospital in Cartagena, and I had an ultrasound, and I saw a little tiny dot, and that was my son, and that was on Valentine's Day, 2014, that I first saw my boy, and I went back to the ship, and I called my husband, and I said, "Are you sitting down?" And we had been emailing at this point. You don't really call. It's like, $500 a second on, to call from international waters. And so we had been emailing. He knew I was sick, and he knew what was going on. And so I didn't tell him when I found out immediately about the pregnancy. I wanted to know what the ultrasound showed. And so I just told him, they're going to take me to a doctor in Colombia. And, that's comforting because that's where you want to go for medical care. Nothing against Colombia, please. So he was immediately concerned, and he was like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "Well, I'm pregnant." And there was half a second of silence, and then he was just like, "Okay." Like just that, I just know that he was like, "Okay, all right, this is okay. This is okay." And now I'm mad because I'm like, because I was not okay. My mind was going a million miles a minute, and I couldn't process so much, and I would still not process the rape. I was still not feeling like myself. And so to have this too, it was too much. It was just, I just needed to sit down and cry and yell and hold my belly and wonder and just try to wrap my head around what was altogether too much. And here was this man who was just very calm and cool and collected. And I knew that he wasn't. I knew that he couldn't possibly have been, but he always had that front for me, just to be that support for me. And I'm like, "What do you mean this is okay? How could this possibly be?" And he's like, "This is okay." He's like, "This, sweetheart, is a gift. This is a blessing. This baby in the midst of all this pain, this is something wonderful, and we can do this." And I was like, "Yeah, we can do this." He's like, "We love babies." I was like, "Yeah, we love babies." And I know there was someone, one of the crew members, like standing at the doorway when I was making the call, and they're just looking at me like, "This woman's lost it. I know she's lost it." And because I'm going, "Yes, we love babies. Yes, we can do this. Yes, we," and I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And he's like, "This is gonna be awesome. This is gonna be great." And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "You're okay." I'm like, "I'm okay." He's like, we can do this. We love babies. This is great." And
that's beautiful.
And it was.
I mean, that's beautiful.
Thank you for joining us this week on Mountain Heartbeat. That's all the time we have for this week. However, Rosa will be continuing her interview with Jennifer Christie next week, same channel, same time. If you'd like to hear this or other fine programming, you can find us on soundcloud.com/Rosa Hopkins or youtube.com/Joe and Rosa Hopkins. On those sites, we also have the interview that Rosa conducted over the phone with Jennifer's husband, Jeff. We had played those the last 2 weeks on Mountain Heartbeat, and they're on SoundCloud and YouTube if you want to look them up. You can also find Rosa's blog on gutsychristianity.com. Thank you very much for joining us this week on Mountain Heartbeat.